President Bush fails, at least for now, to get his capital gains tax cut. Congressmen call for a special prosecutor in the HUD scandal, and East Germans are leaving home again by the thousands. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. President Bush appears to be giving up and giving in tonight on his top priority idea of getting a tax cut in the capital gains tax this year. Congressional Democrats and Republicans say Mr. Bush has all but conceded defeat by agreeing not to attach his capital gains proposal to important budget legislation. Mr. Bush denies that this amounts to a give on capital gains. All of this part of the larger battle between President Bush and congressional Democrats over economic policy, a battle that has created budget gridlock and triggered billions of dollars in spending cuts. Leslie Stahl is standing by now at the White House. Leslie, what's going on here?
Well, the president has given up his attempt to pass capital gains tax cuts on must-pass legislation, specifically on next week's bill to raise the debt ceiling and on that big budget reconciliation bill. Now, they're saying that the president's doing this to break the budget stalemate, but they are not conceding, Dan, that this is the absolute death knell for capital gains this year. They say that if a bill comes along that they can attach it to, they'll try. That doesn't seem too likely. They're saying if it doesn't work, they will come back again next year and try for capital gains again. So they're not saying it's totally dead.
Now, Bob Shee from Capitol Hill, are the Democrats declaring victory over this capital gains tax cut idea?
Well, nobody's said too much yet, Dan. They're all in a meeting. I think this kind of hit like a bolt out of the blue. Nobody really expected it to happen. But clearly, this was a victory for the Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell. Capital gains has been a part of almost everything up here this year. Suddenly today, the White House finally said, we're not going to push it on must-pass legislation. And so for all practical purposes, I think it's dead for the rest of the year.
Let's set aside for the moment, at least, the question of why President Bush insisted for so long on a capital gains tax cut and deal with is a tremendous budget mess for which the executive and legislative branches bear a lot of responsibility. What are they going to do? What is anybody going to do? Or are they going to continue to basically do nothing?
Transcripts from Walter Reed are now available in the lower press office.
Dan, if you heard that, that was an announcement here at the White House. What the president is saying tonight is that if Congress won't pass a clean budget bill without any add-ons, and the White House doesn't think they can, then he is prepared to live with these across-the-board budget cuts, the so-called Graham-Rudman sequestration. Now, they say they've looked at the Pentagon, that the cuts aren't that bad for the Pentagon. They say they will take some cuts. Some FBI agents will be furloughed, some education and environmental cuts, about 5%. They say they can live with that. They've calculated that the president accepting these cuts will look bold. He'll look as though he's taking firm action.
Up here, of course, they take a very different view of that. Democrats were arguing all day today that if the president does allow these across-the-board cuts to stand, it could backfire on him.
The very programs that the president has identified as important for this country at this point of history are the very programs that would be severely impacted by these cuts.
The cuts will be draconian. By next November, the Pentagon would have to discharge at least 160,000 people and retire 20 ships. Reductions in domestic programs would be equally severe. The Department of Education's budget would be cut $1 billion. FBI and the Drug Enforcement Agency, $110 million. Other drug fighting and treatment programs, $570 million. Environmental programs, $371 million. And the Space Agency, $589 million.
Tonight, people here still can't really believe that the president would allow that kind of cutting to stand. But the Democrats are meeting tonight to plot their next move now the president has given up on capital gains. Dan?
Bob and Leslie, thanks. An official request today asking the Justice Department to appoint an independent special prosecutor to investigate former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Samuel Pierce. Pierce and other top former HUD officials have invoked their Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination, refusing to tell investigators what they know about possible mismanagement, corruption, and crime at HUD during the Reagan-Bush administration. Correspondent Terrence Smith reports the latest in the HUD scam case.
After 7 months of investigation, House Democrats today formally called for the appointment of a special prosecutor to investigate former Housing Secretary Samuel Pierce on grounds of possible fraud and perjury.
There's ample evidence of wrongdoing at HUD, but there's stonewalling at the top. And the only way to get to the bottom of the mess at HUD is through the appointment of an independent counsel.
After Pierce invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination for a second time last week, the Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee wrote to the Attorney General asserting that the former secretary may be implicated in a conspiracy to defraud the United States in the distribution of HUD funds. The letter also asserts possible perjury by Mr. Pierce in testimony last spring. The Attorney General issued a statement accusing the Democrats of partisan politics, but said the Justice Department will follow the letter of the law.
So we're obliged to utilize the provisions of the independent counsel statute.
But Pierce's attorney dismissed the allegations.
There's no beef there. The facts aren't there. It may well be that lacking the facts, this is a last-ditch effort to justify 7 months of investigation.
Under the law, Thornburg must launch a preliminary investigation into the charges against Pierce within 15 days, or explain to Congress why it is not necessary. Terrence Smith, CBS News, Washington.
More of the day's news in a moment, and a visit with another of the best of us, Americans working to make things better for all of us.
Doctors measure back pain by how far you can bend. Extra Strength Dones is made for back pain relief with an ingredient these pain relievers don't have. Dones makes back pain go away. Extra Strength Dones, the back specialist.
Let's try it on.
We interrupt this shopping trip. Charge it. To remind you the Discover card pays you cash back for every charge.
Super, Dad.
It pays to Discover.
It's happening now. The Crab Lovers Festival at Red Lobster. King crab from icy Arctic waters, steaming, succulent. Delicate snow crab to dip, drip, and savor. And now get your taste of our sweet, meaty Pacific Dungeness. We've created 8 crab and seafood combinations starting at just $6.95. They're here now and only at Red Lobster. Friday through Sunday, try our crab and shrimp special, just $10.95.
Today, U.S. Air pumped 3 million gallons of fuel, cleaned 47,000 seats, swept 400 aisles, and showed 175 little boys and girls to the restroom. We served 50,000 meals, 56,000 soft drinks, and cleaned up 250 spills. We checked 260,000 bags, flew 170,000 people, and said thank you about 500,000 times. And you know what? It's still not enough. Thank you. U.S. Air, America's most frequent flyer.
Yet another new wave of East German citizens renounced and fled their communist homeland today, turning their backs on government promises of reform. More than 8,000 have crossed into Czechoslovakia since yesterday, when the East German government reopened the border between East Germany and Czechoslovakia. Many of them headed straight for the West German embassy in Prague, first stop on a journey to the West. Our report tonight on the changing face of communism begins with CBS News correspondent Anthony Mason reporting from London.
Once again, East Germans are climbing the fences to get into the West German embassy in Prague. Only a day after the East German government reopened its borders with Czechoslovakia, some 1,300 refugees have already filled the embassy grounds. On East German television, the lifting of travel restrictions was advertised as one of the government's bold reforms. The thousands on their way out, it suggested, were just happy holidaymakers. We just want to go shopping, have a cup of coffee, and a look around, this woman said. But these East Germans were shopping too, for a West German passport. Real reform will take 20 or 30 years, says this young man. I'll be 40 or 50 by then. That's no good for me. The new East German leader, Egon Krenz, arrived in Poland today, where the tide of reform has already forced the communists to surrender power. This is a new experience for me, Krenz admitted, but I think something good can come out of this experience for East Germany. Krenz did not visit the 1,000 other East Germans who are also in Warsaw, seeking a way out to the West. But Krenz is trying desperately to calm the storm. He made a point of meeting with Solidarity Prime Minister Tadeusz Mazowiecki today, afterwards calling him a very nice man. And while Krenz was in Warsaw, at home his party was bouncing 5 members of the old guard. including the wife of ousted leader Erich Honecker. The refugees themselves have all been granted amnesty. Leaving East Germany is no longer illegal. Krentz undoubtedly hopes that by letting them go, more will choose to come back. But with the door again open to Czechoslovakia, the traffic still seems to be headed one way. Anthony Mason, CBS News, London.
In the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev faces a new challenge from striking coal miners and a growing threat of a coal shortage this winter. In the Ukraine and in the frozen fields above the Arctic Circle, thousands of miners have thrown down their tools in the last 2 days, defying the new law against work stoppages. They charge the government has not carried out the agreements that ended their strikes last summer. The government of Nicaragua said today it has resumed military operations against the U.S.-backed Contra rebels, but gave no details of any of the new fighting. Yesterday, President Daniel Ortega broke off his ceasefire, claiming Contra attacks were endangering the election set for February. Today, Ortega said that he's willing to negotiate a new ceasefire, and he said the elections will go ahead, barring any invasion by the United States, which Ortega said he doesn't expect. In Washington, President Bush said that he's keeping his options open. In Colombia, all 42 federal judges in Medellin are out on strike today. They say they won't come back until they receive better protection. This follows the assassination overnight of a federal judge in Medellin, the headquarters city for one of the world's biggest cocaine criminal operations, and the killing of a Colombian congressman in Bogota. Both murders believed to be the work of Colombia's drug thugs.
I think that the future is so fascinating and so interesting for me. I feel blessed. I'm far less pressured as I get older than when I was young. As far as having aches and pains, I'm no different than anyone else. Yes, I do have my share. And it's those times that I use Bufferin. Bufferin, my brand of aspirin, is different than plain aspirin. It has buffers that make it gentler to your stomach.
Bufferin, so you can do the things you want to do.
People who want that competitive edge also want the nutrition of 100% whole grain. But of these eating cereals, only Wheaties is made with 100% whole grain. So only Wheaties gives you whole grain nutrition. Better get your whole grain.
You better eat your Wheaties.
Now with 25% less sodium than before.
If I told you my pantyhose could go through an obstacle course like this without a snag, you'd say, no way. And I'd say, no nonsense.
Pantyhose that last are no nonsense.
To the average car, this could be a dangerous body of water, even though it's only an inch deep. That's why you should drive the new four-wheel drive Subaru Legacy, the latest in foul weather gear.
Fright, but no major injuries or damage. That is how authorities assessed last night's 4.4 aftershock centered in California's Santa Cruz Mountains. They said this latest reminder of last month's deadly earthquake was likely to be followed by at least 2 moderate or even larger aftershocks in the northern part of California over the next 2 months. Meanwhile, the California State Legislature met in special session to consider earthquake relief measures at the state level. At the federal level, they still appear to be mired down in a lot of bureaucracy. And as John Blackstone reports, the rubble is turning up more surprises.
San Francisco's Marina District is being put straight again, quite literally.
Then we had trucks out here in the street and just pushed it back.
The apartment building that George Chernihiw has owned for 25 years is leaning dangerously, but is one of several likely to be saved.
The marina will live again, don't worry. It took a little beating, but it'll be back.
Throughout the neighborhood, the priority is rebuilding. But on some corners, there are empty lots where less than 3 weeks ago there were houses and families and all the trappings of daily life. The house that was here and many other houses in the marina are now just piles of splintered wood and rubble on a faraway landfill.
When I first started going through the material, I was really depressed. I found $20, and then I realized it was somebody's $20, and they weren't able to go through that material.
The people who run the landfill realized that what was being dumped here was not just the wreckage of an earthquake, but the fabric of lives.
Some of these people are quite interesting. I'd like to meet them.
Shovelful by shovelful, workers at the landfill have become rescuers of memories. They have found dog tags from days in the military and medals from wartime. They have found class rings, investment certificates, and passports, videotapes of vacations and weddings. But the most important discoveries, they have decided, are the photographs. A muddy and battered album seems more precious than a string of pearls.
The hours or whatever we put in, it's nothing. Inside my heart, it makes me feel good, though, finding all this stuff for these people.
In a few weeks, when the searching is finished, those who lost their homes in the marina will be called to identify what is theirs. What will seem worthless to many people will be priceless for someone. John Blackstone, CBS News, Alviso, California.
This business may seem easy, but try doing this with minor arthritis pain. For years I took aspirin, but now there's Advil. It gives me hours of relief, yet it's gentler to my stomach than aspirin. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Sunsweet's been up to something remarkably fresh. A reclosable canister. So Sunsweet pitted prunes stay fresh and moist. That is, for as long as they stay around. Only one prune tastes unsweet.
Those human rights to which this nation has always been committed.
Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. Peace now, peace now, peace.
We're not going to try to control what our people read and say and think.
You commit yourself to the principles of God. Free at last! Free at last!
The freedom to say and think what we believe, to express our individuality and diversity. That's our birthright, and it's ensured by this document. Join us and the National Archives in celebrating the 200th anniversary of the Bill of Rights.
Less than a week to Election Day 1989, some of the contests are being viewed as possible indicators about racial politics in the United States and the growing importance of abortion as a cutting-edge election issue. The race for governor of Virginia is drawing national attention on both scores. From Virginia, CBS News chief political correspondent Bruce Morton looks tonight at changing politics and the politics of change.
Robert E. Lee still broods over Richmond, capital of the Confederacy. Confederate soldiers still guard Virginia's courthouse lawns. But much has changed here.
That's what Virginia does now. It unites rather than divides. It looks forward rather than behind. And it reaches all rather than a few.
Doug Wilder, a black man, is running for governor. If he wins, he'd be the first black governor of any U.S. state. He is leading Republican Marshall Coleman in the polls, and they both agree race has not been a visible issue in the campaign.
I think the change has already occurred. I mean, I think if you look around in our state, I think you see that people are regularly accepted or rejected for political office based on their own merit.
Welcome to the new Virginia. For one thing, the state has become much more urban, much more prosperous. Unemployment 3%. Much more high-tech than it was 20 or 30 years ago.
Virginia's really become a middle Atlantic state. It has much more in common with Maryland and Mississippi.
Virginia was never as violent as, say, Alabama, but legions of lawyers and politicians like the late Senator Harry Byrd fought for segregation in the courts, urged massive resistance to keep black and white children from sharing a classroom. A generation of political leaders like Republican ex-Governor Linwood Holton worked to change that.
The blacks went to the back of the bus when I grew up. No more. And the thing of it is that we're proud of the fact that we've recognized that we had a problem, and we've taken the leadership to make the changes.
Democrat Wilder, grandson of slaves, grew up in the old segregated Virginia. But he won a statewide race for lieutenant governor 4 years ago and is running this time on a surprising platform.
Marshall Coleman wants to take away your right to choose and give it to the politicians.
Yes, Wilder is running as the pro-choice candidate on abortion, and it's helped him.
Others said, well, you certainly are not going to take that position, especially in Virginia. And that's another clear example as to how Virginia's moved.
We should also acknowledge that he's black, but in this year, it looks like abortion may overcome race as a motivation for voting.
Republican Coleman, making his second try for the governorship, attacks Wilder's character and says he'd be tougher on crime.
I found that there is a concern out there that people have that Virginia isn't a safe place to live anymore, and they want that changed.
But when black college students clashed with police in Virginia Beach earlier this year, Wilder took a hard law and order line. He's been a maverick, but this year he's running as the establishment candidate, promising to continue the prosperity the state's enjoying. Some say Virginia will make history if Wilder wins. Polls show him leading, and others say that in itself is making history here. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Pulaski, Virginia.
Special K. Lose the fat.
Tickets for Webb.
We interrupt this purchase for a reminder.
Here we go.
There's another decision worth entertaining.
Very smart.
Choosing the card that actually pays you cash. Cash back for every charge. The Discover card. It pays to Discover, the card that pays you back.
Having the flu is a nightmare. Your throat's so sore. You're congested. You cough. Body aches all over. But now, there's Theraflu, the first and only hot medicine made just for flu symptoms. Theraflu, with a hot liquid like doctors recommend. Strong therapy for fever and cough. Strong therapy for aches and pains. Next time the flu strikes you, strike back with Theraflu.
Tonight, the fourth in our series on 5 Americans we call the best of us. Best because they act on the impulse of generosity. And what they contribute cannot be measured in dollars. They give the years of their lives to fight problems too easily called intractable, problems often rooted in poverty. And it is the satisfaction of accomplishment against those odds that's the reward for the best of us. Bethesda Baptist Church, Society Hill, South Carolina. On this day, the congregation welcomes a visitor, Ann Lewis, who runs the Family Health Clinic in Society Hill. For poor people in this area, she is a beacon of light.
She's on the side of the angels. Anything we need, all we have to do is ask Ann Lewis, and if she can get it, she will.
Yes, I need a pediatrician. Desperately.
Ann Lewis and her staff provide medical care to the people around here who have no money and no health insurance. We spoke with Ann on a rainy South Carolina day. Who's going to pay for the health care of poor people who don't have health insurance?
I genuinely believe that there are more than just economic factors involved. That if we could solve that issue, there are moral issues involved, that everyone, every person out there has a right to access to health care.
Let me go ahead and check in and see what's going on with your cervix.
17-year-old Angel McMillan is 9 months pregnant. Doctors want to make sure that an interior scar caused by an earlier operation does not rupture.
Baby sounds fine. Baby day today.
Could be a while.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect a baby in the next hour or two.
Angel is lucky. There are millions of Americans, particularly in rural areas, who do not get the medical treatment they need. More than 35 million Americans, 1/3 of them children, have no health insurance. Most of the uninsured are working people who make too much money to qualify for Medicaid, but are still living in or near poverty. The United States leads the industrialized world in teenage pregnancy. Among developed nations, America has the worst infant mortality rate. Every year, some 40,000 infants die in this country before reaching the age of 1.
It's a shame. It's frankly a disgrace for our nation. I know that there's been a lot of questions.
Ann Lewis has come to Bethesda Baptist to speak about a sudden crisis in the community. The hospital Ann's patients go to deliver their babies, Southland, is being turned into a nursing home. This has caused panic in Society Hill, especially among the pregnant women who had expected to deliver there.
So when the big bucks talk, the hospitals that are serving the poor with their meager resources, their meager money, in other words, lose out.
And that's exactly what happened. The big bucks talked, so the hospital closed. And while Ann's clinic continues sailing along, her patients now must find somewhere else to have their babies delivered. Once again, the poor lost out. There's something else going on around here. Ann calls it the good old boy system. She says that's when people close their eyes and choose not to see the poverty, the conditions that lead to teenage pregnancy, to infant mortality.
I genuinely think that for a lot of people, the fact that infants are dying and that they're dying predominantly too poor, who are predominantly black, that it's just not an issue about which they choose to do something.
Is this a, quote, black, unquote, problem?
You look at the statistics. When you look at the black indicators of poor child health, perinatal mortality, all of those combined, and you see that the black population's outcomes are sometimes 3 times poor, worse than their white counterparts, it's clearly a racial issue. Come on, baby. Come on.
It's a wonderful opportunity that I don't think a lot of people have to be able to go home at night and know that without some of what we've done, there would be people, there would be babies that not only were dying, but would be at best a lot less healthy.
Ann Lewis of South Carolina, among the best of us and part of our world tonight. We hope you and the family will watch 48 Hours. Tonight is about women in prison paying for their crimes, fighting for a second chance, some of them with children. That's tonight at 8, 7 Central Time. Dan Rather for the CBS Evening News. See you on 48 Hours.
To enter the world of women in prison, where not just the criminal pays for the crime. What will the next 48 hours be like tonight?
This is CBS.
Coming up on News Channel 5's 6 o'clock report. As you can see from this live picture of the Metro Council chambers, council members are heading home after failing once again to find a landfill site. A series of reports coming up. A good Samaritan trying to help people in trouble ends up in the hospital for his trouble. And in Pulaski, some people are ready for a fight to keep the Klan out. We'll have those stories and one secret to staying healthy. Our 6 o'clock report is next.
In a major business